Okay, students, in this video, we're going to be looking at how we can edit the existing skyboxes, set up our own, and use one of the free blueprint packs for skyboxes that I've also shared with you. So the default skybox that comes with a basic level here is the Unreal Sky Sphere. It has some interesting things going for it down here. So by default, when I make a new level, the sky sphere is tied to our directional light source. So if I select the directional light, aka light source here, and I rotate it around, you will notice my light is changing the scene, but the sky is not changing with it. And that is because this sky is not real time. I have to click it and then click this refresh material button. And so you notice now that my sky light is sort of down here, we can see my sun. It is setting. I have these like nice orange sunset options. And if I keep going farther down to the point where it is pointing straight up, and hit refresh on the background sky sphere again, you will see I suddenly get a night sky with stars, yet the clouds are still there, and it's quite bright still at my horizon line because of the way the default atmospheric fog is set, where the default light here is bright, and we could change that and make it darker, as well as taking my skylight and making it darker and having less options here. And so the skylight will affect our ambient. And again, we can refresh our guy here. Other options you can do is you can play around in the default sky sphere with the cloud speed here. So if I increase this, we'll see the clouds moving faster as they spin in a storm-like manner. You can lower or raise the opacity of the clouds to make them more see-through or less see-through. You can control the brightness of the stars in the sky, and a lot of the other sort of generic colors here. The other thing you would want to do, of course, is reduce the intensity of your default light source and reduce the intensity of your skylight if you're going for sort of a dark night situation here. Now, another way to deal with this is to delete it. And if you happen to have used the Good Sky set of blueprints in your Unreal assets folder, you can drag out the Good Sky BP, which you can see here comes with this sort of default cloudy, and it has its own set of settings here, including changing the different types of clouds and a whole bunch of cool preset modes, including old-fashioned sort of skies from the previous version of Unreal, some built-in automatic night skies, as well as stuff like storms here. It occurs to me looking at this that also the engine is brightening things up for us, so you often want to make sure that you have a post-process volume in your scene, as usual set to infinite extent and basic brightness of 1 and 1, so that it doesn't make it look brighter than it is. So we have a quite dark night sky at the moment. And I can sit here, and there are quite a bunch of settings on our Good Sky default that you can play around with. Those are the things that I would bring in there. You can also set it to specific times of day, you know, and even weird stuff like the bright orange moon. The last thing you can do, if you want to build everything from scratch and have a ton of control, is to delete everything. So I'm going to delete my light source, I'm going to delete my skylight, I'm going to delete my atmospheric fog. So I'm leaving myself just with the objects that are in my scene and the post-process. And I'm going to open a window we haven't used yet called the Environment Light Mixer, which is this big window here. And I think it is probably best docked sort of down here by the content browser, so you can swap between them. And it has some buttons here that we're going to hit as we go across. We're going to hit Create Skylight, create atmospheric light 0, create sky atmosphere, and create volumetric cloud. And it's struggling. If it was a little wider and I was on a bigger monitor, it would give me that last option there. Here, I'll do it again. And one really nice thing about this environment light mixer is it lets me see all these lights at once. You'd noticed earlier when I was editing, I was switching back and forth between the skylight and the directional light and a bunch of stuff. And this lets me get all of them. Now, nothing looks good right now because we have to like remind the computer that this stuff is in here. Now, I could toggle the directional light here in my world outliner, but I also want to just, I'm going to type atmosphere here. I think that's what it is. It's atmosphere, or we want to, oh, I'm sorry. We're going to switch to normal plus advanced really quick. And I'm going to type atmosphere. And right here, this first result is atmosphere sunlight. And it's basically saying, hey, do we interact? And it is on, but you have to toggle it off and then on before the engine recognizes it. So you can see we get this nice sky here all of a sudden. And the skylight, we're also going to turn to real-time capture. Now, this, as much as I don't have much of a world beneath my current viewport, is quite a nice bit of lighting, actually. It's a little bright, but it's got a nice sky, and I can control this stuff. And just like previously, I can move around the directional light, and it will affect the sun in my system, and it will update this stuff as it goes. So you can see as I go down, we can get these sort of really nice situations. You can also control the directional light just by holding Control and L and moving your mouse around. So I can sort of literally move my sun around here, as you can see it there, up and down and below into nighttime, and get quite a nice, quite a dark situation, especially if you have like your own lights in the scene. And you have lots of settings here that you can play with in your sky. The interesting ones, I think, are if you turn it to normal plus advanced and scroll down in your sky atmosphere, we have the atmosphere-relay and atmosphere-MIE, and these scattering options let you get some really interesting situations for how the light sort of scatters through this atmosphere between us. You can see this slider does quite a bit and can be useful in terms of setting a real like mood in your scene. The relay one, again, also has some really strong controls here. Increasing the scattering mean I can move my light higher in the sky, but get much more colors as the light sort of scatters between the atmosphere as it moves. This absorption also does some interesting stuff. And if you go far enough down, there is actually an art direction section that can control like an overall lighting that you're trying to bring to the scene that can affect things in different ways, and some fog settings here. Lastly, you can also add the exponential height fog into your scene, which immediately gets quite bright. And this is because this is much like bloom. This is an additive process. So we would turn it down heavily and probably change our scattering colors to being quite dark in our current scene, because our current scene is sort of a nighttime situation. All right. We can also turn the density down here. But fog by default seems to sort of like add quite a bit of light to a scene. We can reduce the amount that it is affected by our directional light. We can also like reduce the intensity. these are all different ways that you can get sort of very, very dramatic options. This fog, as I have it sit here, would probably do well sort of in true nighttime as sort of filling my fog situation. So those are sort of the three different ways that you have to interact with your Skybox settings.